Right, to this now. ActionSA's Buffalo City Regional Secretary Michele Kay handed over a petition from residents who want the Metro to scrap the recent electricity tariff increases. The ratepayers say they were not properly consulted about the increases, but the mayor denied this, saying the increases would not affect the poor and indigent households. Michele Kay joins us now for more on that. Michele, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Why do you want the tariff scrapped?
Good evening, Tabo. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, we want the tariffs scrapped because they are quite exorbitant. What Buffalo City municipalities put in place is a 12% increase in the tariffs and a very, very high cost of service or basic charge that they've introduced on the electricity. We haven't had this before, particularly for prepaid meter users. They've introduced a cost of 376 Rand a month on the prepaid meters, basic charge, and 664 Rand on the credit or postpaid customers. So those are quite exorbitant. You can imagine just being hit with that out of the blue. We don't feel that we've been consulted, and this is very, very high in context of the Eastern Cape as well. Much higher than the 200 Rand that Joburg has been given, for instance.
Sure, that's quite something. The electricity minister addressing this issue of tariffs that are continuing to increase, saying we are faced with, I think what he sums up as three challenges. One, you have a challenge of improving the electricity distribution system, right? So that is going to require money. So some tariff increases, he says, are inevitable in that context. But two, you've also got debt that needs to be addressed by these municipalities. So tariffs there certainly would be affected. And then you've got the challenge of wanting to invest in infrastructure as more people are coming on board. How do you address those challenges in the context of course, consumers saying, no, you can't increase the tariffs?
Yes, it is a very challenging context. But as the residents within Buffalo City, there's a very strong feeling that the municipality should not put those sort of costs onto us. We fully accept that there will be some kind of increases, in the tariffs every year, that they would go up at some point. But these huge increases are just not acceptable. So we do think that the municipality should reach out to national government, provincial national government, and particularly looking at the Minister of Electricity and Energy to see how can they actually come in to support municipalities to cover some of these costs like the debts and the infrastructure development. So Buffalo City is well known for having amongst the highest rates in South Africa, but our service deliveries, especially poor in infrastructure, is decaying around us. So we do pay all these high rates, but we don't actually see the benefit within our municipality. So we do feel that government at all levels needs to look elsewhere as to how they can actually come into support and with some of these costs. And of course, then definitely cost saving on the part of the municipality to actually be run efficiently and effectively. We've just heard recently that in the last 3 months, Buffalo City has spent 40 million Rand on overtime for staff. So, we find that ridiculous in this sort of climate where they're putting all these increases onto us as residents in Buffalo City, but they're splurging on overtime. So we do feel that they can cut back on their costs and also reaching out to national government, to the Ministry of Electricity, etc., for assistance.
Yeah. Is it not the role, though, of the regulator to help protect consumers particularly? Do you think they would have played their role enough here in coming up with the payment, or let me say the cost structure that is currently being charged by the municipality?
I'm not so sure if they're playing their role in protecting, the customer in this regard, because I think these tariffs have actually been approved by NERSA. So we actually don't see that role being played by them. I'm not sure if they did their homework in terms of these sort of tariffs and the impact that it's actually going to have on residents in Buffalo City. I mean, these amounts are exorbitant, and people are starting to receive their bills at the end of the month and seeing these exorbitant charges, and they're actually saying they can't afford them. So there's a huge outcry, and people are having to now choose between, will I buy electricity or will I buy food? So we actually don't think that NERSA is playing its role in terms of actually looking at the real impact on people in Buffalo City in this case at all.
Yeah. The mayor seems to believe that these particular tariffs are not particularly targeted at the poor and the indigent households. In fact, he says they are not affected at all. Even pensioners are able to get rebates. So I think in his view is that these amounts are targeted at people who can afford to pay them.
Yes, I don't agree with that at all. Unfortunately, the economic climate in the Eastern Cape is particularly dire. We know just recently it was announced that we are officially in economic recession in the Eastern Cape, and we have the highest unemployment rates. So people in Buffalo City really are stretched economically to the maximum, and that cuts across all sectors of society. But I don't really believe that the low to middle income classes are protected from these hikes at all. If you actually look particularly at the prepaid meter charges, those that fall outside the indigent category, so those that are earning over and above 4,400 Rand a month fall outside the indigent category, so they won't benefit from any rebates. They will actually have to carry a higher cost if they are only buying, say, 100 units of electricity or 200 units of electricity a month. They will still, over and above those units, have to pay the 376 Rand, excluding VAT. So if you're only purchasing 100 units, for instance, a month, your increase is over 100%. I don't actually, follow that logic. I think this is really going to damage the low to middle income people in Buffalo City, especially. And I don't think they've looked at that very closely when they pushed through these tariff increases.
Yeah. How do you think then the minister should address this thing? Because he's making an undertaking to review, for example, the tariff policy, but also to review the subsidy framework. How do you think he should address that?
I think they should do it in context of looking at the reality that South Africans are living in, that people in Buffalo City are living in. What is the economic climate at the moment, and how are these increases going to affect people? And then see what is actually realistic in terms of carrying over costs to customers, to residents, to ratepayers. What is realistic within the economic climate? What can people actually still absorb? As I said, people are really stretched to the absolute limit. So I think they need to look at it from that context. And then see what other mechanisms are there where they could reach out and sort of draw funding from other mechanisms. And of course, we also need to look at moving to green or sustainable energy as well over a period of time. And I think this is going to push more and more people in that direction in any case, because the utilities are just becoming unaffordable.
Michele, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Right, let's leave
Thank
it
you
there.
so much.
ActionSA Buffalo City Regional Secretary there, Michele Kay, on those tariff increases.